Baltimore Ravens playoff football is officially here. We dive into the Ravens and Steelers matchup, keys to victory, key storylines, how Baltimore can go on a long Super Bowl run, and how they can kick that off with a big win tonight. All that and more coming up on this game day edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We're free and available for you, all podcasting platforms, including in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel. Also in audio form, where you can follow along and subscribe as well. We're a 5-day-a-week plus more daily Ravens podcast. So we have weekday episodes every Monday through Friday, all year round. We're a year-round Ravens podcast on the daily. We also have bonus episodes like these game day episodes. You go and have an episode before the Ravens play on every game day. Also, we go live after every Ravens game. So we'll be right back here live tonight after the final whistle is blown, hopefully after a Ravens win. But even after a loss, we're diving into the whole entire game. What happened, what didn't, and so much more. Today's bonus edition, game day edition of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. We are here. Ravens playoff football. The Ravens get another crack at winning the Super Bowl, going on a long Super Bowl run. That all starts tonight. Ravens and Steelers. I'm feeling all sorts of emotions right now. I mean, nervousness, excitement, honestly, probably every emotion under the sun I'm feeling right now. So we're going to talk about everything from how I believe the Ravens are better positioned to win a Super Bowl this year as opposed to last year, how it's time to end the Steelers season, how they can do that. We'll get into final predictions and so much more. I'm really pumped up. I'm really excited. This is what you play for. Regular season, it's all fine and dandy, right? You have fun during the regular season. But as you move into the postseason, this is what matters. This is what it comes down to. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. Hopefully it'll be a lot of fun tonight. Hopefully the Ravens can win a game and just stack wins 1-0 every single week. We also, in video form, we got the nice little sleek thing at the bottom there now. It's a little bit smaller, the, I guess, lower third, if you want to call it that. We have just a smaller one, so you can see the full screen now. So it's another, I mentioned we're going to have a bunch of upgrades to the video and audio experience here on Locked On Ravens. So if you're a video watcher or an audio listener, going to be upgrades across the board throughout the postseason and throughout the offseason in terms of the quality of the show in general, getting some upgrades in. So we're just taking baby steps to get to where we want to go here on Locked On Ravens, just how the Ravens have to take some baby steps to get to where they want to go and win the Super Bowl. So let's start off with the Ravens. I think they're ready to go on a run here. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to. Obviously, they're going to have to face off against some good teams, some challenging teams, and some teams that have strengths that the Ravens have weaknesses to. But I think that what we saw last season, and if you're an everydayer on Locked On Ravens, you've heard me talk about this before, the Ravens didn't face a ton of adversity last season. They faced some. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows every single week. They had bad losses here and there, but felt like they were blowing teams out by 30 every other week, and it didn't feel like they had to grind for a lot of their wins. They made sure that they worked as hard as they could to be in position to blow teams out by 30. I'm not saying they didn't work hard all season, but in terms of coming back multiple times like they've had to do this season, signature wins like the Ravens have had this season. The Ravens had a couple signature wins last year where they had to come back or stick with the team, like the Los Angeles game with Tylan Wallace at the end there. But you can point to both Cincinnati games. You can point to a couple of other big games the Ravens have had to play. And yes, this last month of the season, they've been blowing teams out. But I think that they have kind of figured out a lot of their identity. And plus the adversity they've gone through this season, their defense was terrible pass-wise. And they had to work through that. For months, they had to go through some turbulence there. They've had to deal with some unhappy personalities in that locker room and adjusting on the fly and even some offensive struggles at times. they've lost some bad games too. And I think that they've learned from that. We thought they learned from it last season, but didn't really go that way. But you also hear what Lamar Jackson has said about his playoff struggles, and obviously is going to be a big storyline starting here tonight against Pittsburgh of just the fact of the matter that he gets antsy. And he admitted to that. He admitted to his struggles. He opened up on it. And that to me is a really, first of all, big thing for Lamar to do. But experience, I think, in terms of just being antsy or nervous or whatever emotions Lamar has during the game, he said the word antsy. I think experience is the best teacher for that. And he said just calming himself down and making sure that he's doing all the things he can to help his team win. It's been an interesting ride for Lamar in the playoffs, as we've talked about. We talked about it yesterday with Sam and Njoku, and have just kind of dove in on the topic a bunch. The Lamar or playoff Lamar thing, it's a valid thing. I'm not saying Lamar's been this star in the playoffs, but I think it's also overblown to the point where Lamar gets all the blame for the Ravens' playoff losses, where that is just untrue and not fair to Lamar. So yes, he has to step up. He has to play better than he has. I'm not denying that fact, but it hasn't just all been doom and gloom for Lamar in the postseason. And actually, sometimes it's been in spite of Lamar performances, the Ravens have lost, like the Tennessee game in 2019, where Lamar had over 500 total yards. So this is a big opportunity because you can't rewrite if you're reading a book, right? If we're equating the Ravens playoff runs in Lamar's career to a book, you can't rewrite those chapters, right? That has happened. 2019 is done. 2023 is done. All that is over with. But you can make a new chapter. You can make sure that the next chapter of your story is the biggest story you can get, is the best ending you can have. You can make this not the final chapter, but the first of many successful, happy ending chapters, right? That to me is you get the best possible ending out of this, and that hopefully is a Super Bowl win. Because we've seen Lamar, we've seen the Ravens, and I'm a big proponent of grow throughout these playoffs. AFC Championship game, that was the first time Baltimore made it back since 2012, 2013. And disappointing the way that it ended. I'm not trying to discount that, but experience is the best teacher. Sometimes you have to fail and fail hard, fail miserably to get to where you want to go. And Lamar being 28 now, which, by the way, Trent Dilfer was 28 when the Ravens won their first Super Bowl. Joe Flacco was 28 when the Ravens won their second Super Bowl. And Lamar Jackson now 28 as the Ravens go for their third. And by the way, you look at how those Super Bowl runs unfolded and how everything worked out. It's been 12 years each way. Obviously, 2000, 2001 to 2012, 2013. That's 12 years. 2012, 2013 to 2024, 2025. That's another 12 years. So people are kind of connecting the dots there and saying, oh, is the prophecy being foretold here? If you're superstitious, you're probably loving that. And I personally am a superstitious person. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I see that. And that's how it goes. But obviously, it's going to come down to how the Ravens execute, how the Ravens perform, both from a player perspective, a coaching perspective, and going up against the Steelers here in the wild card round. It's going to be a tough matchup because you know the Steelers and they know you if you're the Ravens. And that's the uncertainty aspect of it that, look, I feel like the Ravens will be fine. We'll talk about that. There's always a possibility that they won't be. And we'll be back here and, this will come out at 6 a.m. and we might be back here in 15, 16, 17 hours after the game talking about how the Ravens blew another opportunity, disappointing, same old Ravens in the playoffs recently, yada, yada, yada. But I just think that this is a better shot for them. Not in terms of, I thought the roster last year was perfect. The coaching staff last year was perfect. It felt like the year last year. But these last 4 weeks have given me much more renowned optimism and renewed optimism about how this playoff run could go. Momentum in the regular season isn't everything. This starts a whole new season, whole new ball game. There will be upsets throughout the course of the NFL playoffs. It's not just going to be highest seed advances the whole way. That wouldn't play well for Baltimore anyway. They lose in the divisional round. But I think, to me, the Ravens have a big opportunity to say, hey, we're here, we're serious, and you got to watch out for us. And they have an opportunity to do that against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, if you're talking about momentum, Ravens on the upswing after their last 4 games, the Steelers are going in the complete opposite direction after losing 4 straight. So coming up in the second part of the show, talk about how it's time to end the Steelers season and why the Ravens have a great chance to do it. So be sure to stay tuned. Lots to get to here on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by LinkedIn. Growing your small business in 2025 comes down to how well you can hire. And let's face it, better hires start with smarter insights. That's where LinkedIn comes in. With the strongest hiring data available, LinkedIn helps you identify the right candidates, giving you the confidence to make the best decisions for your business. I've used LinkedIn Jobs myself, and I can tell you it's a game changer when it comes to hiring the right fit. Small businesses are wearing a lot of hats, so every hire is crucial. LinkedIn gets that. That's why they connect you with the best candidates using data you won't find anywhere else. From unique skills and interests, the connections you share, LinkedIn helps you find the right person for the job. In fact, 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them find high-quality candidates. And I know from experience how important it is to make the right hiring decisions. Having access to insights like what skills candidates have or how they're connected to your network, that helps you feel confident when you pull the trigger. Hire smart this year and find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free on linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And the show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions or spending habits or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Welcome back, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher here with you. Game day, Ravens Steelers, playoff football. Going to be intense. Going to be crazy intense. And I'm excited for it. We kind of got to wait a little bit. I mean, I know it being a night game, the atmosphere, first of all, at M&T Bank, going to be absolutely electric. But this is an opportunity for Baltimore, as we talked about at the end of that first segment, to really say, hey, we're here and we're ready for anybody. We want all the smoke, and we're not going to shy away from it. And you know what? When you have T-Sizzle being your legend of the game, I think that sets a pretty standard tone for what the Ravens want to go into energy-wise for this playoff run. It's time to end the Steelers season, though, right? We talked about when the Ravens faced off against Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago when they had the opportunity to tug away the AFC North from the Ravens. Pittsburgh did. We came on here and I said, look, it's you can't have the Steelers come into your home stadium and take away the division from you. Like you can't have them clinch the division on your home field in front of your fans. Just from a pride perspective, you can't have that happen. Now that is amplified by like 10 million, because you can't have Pittsburgh come into your home stadium. First time Pittsburgh has played the Ravens in Baltimore in a playoff game. You can't have the Steelers come into your home stadium and advance to the divisional round on you and embarrass you all like that. Like that cannot happen. Now, as we mentioned, the Ravens, they're on a big upswing. The Steelers are not. So it's a bit of a momentum-based thing. But the thing and the beauty about the playoffs is that momentum kind of all resets. You're 0-0. Everybody's 0-0 in the playoffs. It doesn't matter how many games you lost at the end, how many games you won at the end. Any team can beat you at any time in the playoffs. Mistakes are magnified. And when you talk about the Steelers and what they have kind of done this year, they've been a great defense at forcing mistakes. The top turnover defense in the NFL. That's something that the Ravens are really going to have to look out for, because in my opinion, the Steelers, almost 2 turnovers per game for the Steelers that they're averaging. That's going to be a big thing, because both matchups we saw between the Ravens and the Steelers this season, whichever team won the turnover battle won the game. And that's a huge thing when it comes down to getting extra possessions for your offense, keeping your defense off of the field and letting them get rest. There are so many different nuances of why turnovers are so important. And to me, I think the biggest thing is just making sure that you don't lose confidence. and you don't have to go away from who you are, because that's the biggest thing I don't want to see in this game. Mistakes happen. Bad performances happen. Like, bad losses happen. That's like, okay, but don't get away from what got you here. Now, obviously, it's been a much more, if you want to call it, a balanced attack in terms of Baltimore's run versus pass compared to what they did earlier in Lamar's career. But you have to utilize all of your playmakers. You're not going to have one in Zay Flowers, and that obviously will present different challenges, although I personally do believe in Rashad Bateman. I think Rashad can step up and make a really big impact alongside Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Hopefully you get a couple big plays from a Tylan Wallace or Nelson Aguilar. Maybe Tez Walker gets involved a little bit. But regardless, you have to run the ball with Derrick Henry. We cannot have a repeat in any of these games, right? If the Ravens advance and continue to advance, it cannot be a thing where the Ravens get punched in the mouth and then they can't take it. Because when they were the 1 seed both times, 2019 and 2023, Tennessee and Kansas City, the Ravens got punched in the mouth and they wilted. They wilted down. And you can't do that. You cannot play scared in the playoffs. And I know that the AFC Championship game last year looms large for a lot of people. It looms large for me, and I'm sure, you as well. I mean, everybody. It was a really tough game because it felt like the Ravens were responding to the punches, and then after the second Chiefs punch, the Ravens just completely got away, and they fell right into the Chiefs' trap. You cannot do that. Pittsburgh is a smart football team. It's those nuances that happen. But I think you have to force Pittsburgh into mistakes. Russell Wilson is a high mistake player. We saw him make crucial mistakes in both of the Ravens games he played in this season. One, I think, cost them the game. The other one could have cost them the game, but the Ravens couldn't capitalize, unfortunately. If you can force Russ into a couple of bad turnovers, I think your chances are pretty good at winning this game, especially because I feel like Pittsburgh is going to have to air the ball out. One, because their run offense is so terrible. They're a bottom 10, almost bottom 5 run offense in the league. Plus, I just don't think that Pittsburgh has the offensive firepower to keep up with the Ravens. And I've said this forever, this past week. And if you've been listening to me every day, I've been on the Pittsburgh offense's bad train forever. I mean, I've been on it for a while now. And you can't let Pittsburgh slop the game up. I think it's on the offense to start fast. Put Pittsburgh in a early 10-0 hole, 14-3 hole. Just get out to that early lead and force Pittsburgh's hand. Force them to abandon the run. Force them to become one-dimensional. And that will help both the offense and the defense, because the offense can then dictate the game against the Steelers, and the Steelers have to play into Baltimore's hand and not the other way around, where in the Ravens' playoff losses, they have fallen right into what their opponent wants to do, and that is the reason that they have lost, or at least one of the main reasons they have lost those games. So it's going to be Lamar Jackson getting off to a fast start, hopefully Derrick Henry establishing that run game, hopefully Rashad Bateman and the guys I mentioned can make a big impact, and then defensively stopping Pittsburgh. Now, the big thing with Pittsburgh, and we saw this firsthand, Ravens Steelers first time around, is Pittsburgh is a terrible red zone offense. They convert on less than 50% of their red zone chances. And you want the Ravens side of that. On the offensive side of the ball, the Ravens are the best red zone offense in the league, converting on 3/4 of the red zone chances. So if you hold Pittsburgh to field goals, if you're Baltimore, I think you feel pretty confident you're going to win the game, because even though the first time that didn't happen, right, Pittsburgh had to kick 6 field goals. They didn't convert once in the red zone, a touchdown, and they almost lost that game, and the Ravens did lose that game. I just feel like it's different this time around. Maybe it's not, but I just feel like it is, especially because Justin Tucker looks like he's back in form. Penalties are going to be a big thing as well. The Ravens cannot commit penalties. They cannot do it. We know that there might be some calls here in the playoffs. There probably are going to be. There are going to be penalties called on the Ravens. I'm not shying away from that. But you can't have it spiral the way that it has in some of those games that we have seen the Ravens lose this season. Because in the playoffs, your mistakes are 10, 20 times more amplified than they are in the regular season. It can really come back to bite you in ways that in the regular season you never would have think it would come back to bite you. So this is a big game for the Ravens. Obviously, it's win or go home, right? But I mean a big game in terms of establishing, hey, we can do this thing. because if you go one and done here, obviously your confidence changes from season to season, but it's going to be in the back of your head a little bit, right? I think it's in the back of a lot of people's heads right now of like, hey, can the Ravens do this thing? I think this win can give a lot of people a lot of confidence, and for a lot of people, look, I'm not looking ahead. Don't take this as such. But if the Ravens win, they move on to the divisional round. I think a lot of people feel better about Baltimore's chances about the Bills than they do here against the Steelers, just because there's so much uncertainty with this matchup. So we're going to see how it all unfolds. And coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk about final predictions, how I think this game is going to go, and also dive a little bit more into the matchup between the two teams and how they match up with one another. Stay tuned. Lots to get to on this episode of Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. So this Ravens and Steelers matchup, it's holding firm. 9.5-point favorites are the Ravens. So if you like the Ravens as the home favorite or the Steelers as the road underdog, be sure to pick your side over at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked On Ravens, game day, playoffs, Ravens Steelers. Kevin Oestreicher here with you, unveiling a mini new look on Locked On Ravens with the smaller, sleeker, lower third. It's going to be one of many changes that we're going to have on Locked On Ravens over the course of these next couple of weeks and couple of months as we, again, look to improve our video and audio products. So if you're a video watcher or an audio listener, be prepared for some of that. We're doing background, we're doing audio, we're doing everything here on Locked On Ravens. And again, it's kind of unveiling thing after thing, and a little, maybe we'll do if the Ravens win, every win will unveil something different. So that would be fun. Obviously, you hope that's 4 wins, but you need one, and you have to win this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers to have a shot to win the next game. And so when you talk about this Ravens and Steelers matchup, so many things that both teams do well, so many things that both teams don't do well. But to me, I feel like the way the Ravens secondary has played over the last couple of months and this defensive turnaround has given me a lot more confidence, especially against the Steelers offense that I don't think is very high powered. They have some stars. I think George Pickens is a heck of a receiver. I do. I know he had a really tough game against Cincinnati last week, but I don't think that speaks to the player that he is. I know that there's a lot of off-field stuff with him, a lot of drama stuff that comes with George Pickens, but man, on the field, he's something. And I know that a lot of people are worried about Brandon Stephens and how that matchup is going to go. He just has to get his head around. That's what we just have to, let's all say Brandon Stephens. I wish you could hear if there's like a collective cue that we could give Brandon Stephens to have his head turn around for the ball. That would help. But you have Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins, who have been incredible all season. Kyle Hamilton has looked really good in whatever role, obviously, and then Darius Washington has played really well. So really, if you want to talk about like who's the weak link of the defense, it is Brandon Stephens, because I feel confident in the Ravens front, feel confident in their second line, feel confident in their secondary. I think, again, the one main thing is Brandon Stephens. And look, with Pittsburgh, Pickens is a problem. Calvin Austin's really good. Pat Freiermuth, you got to make sure you're accounted for him at all times as well. Other than that, though, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Mike Williams, Van Jefferson? I know Ben Skoranek had a couple of big plays against the Ravens in that second Pittsburgh game, but like, who is it going to be? Yeah, I think that the Ravens, if they can make sure that 2 of those 3 guys don't go off, they're going to be in pretty good shape, especially because, as I mentioned, Pittsburgh's run offense is not very good. Now, the Ravens, their run offense being tops in the league, Pittsburgh's rushing defense is very good. They have that physical defensive front, and the offensive line in the trenches is going to be so important for this team in this game, because like Lamar's Superman, Derrick Henry's Superman, but they can't do everything by themselves. And when the offensive line has a good game, man, it just feels like it's game over, and it's almost impossible to stop this offense because the O-linemen are clearing out rushing lanes for Derrick Henry, clean rushing lanes to run through. And we know with Derrick, the biggest thing for him is to not get stopped early. The farther Derrick Henry runs and the more he can pick up steam, the more dangerous he is. So it's going to be up to guys like Patrick McCary and Daniel Falele at the guard spots to clear the way. Roger Rosengarten's had a great season. Roger Rosengarten's been awesome. Hopefully he can continue that in high pressure, high leverage situations in the postseason. Tyler Linderbaum, I'm not worried about. Ronnie Stanley's been solid this season, but that offensive line can't block. I mean, it's probably going to be a bit of a tough day for the Ravens offense and vice versa for Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh's offense can't get anything going from their offensive line, it's going to create bad situations for the run game, create bad situations for Russell Wilson. So for this Steelers team, they're also going to have to deal with the fact that the Ravens passing offense is incredible this season. Now, Nose Flowers is going to be a key loss for the Ravens, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. But Pittsburgh's pass defense, while they do get a little bit of a break without Zay there, I mean, they're only 18th in the league in terms of pass defense, net yards per attempt wise. And yes, last time they didn't have Dante Jackson. They didn't have Joey Porter Jr. for most of the game, didn't have Deshaun Elliott, who I think is very big in run support for them. That's why I don't think it's going to be like a very high scoring game or anything like that. I feel like it's going to be close. Again, 9.5 points on FanDuel for that it's a little rich for me, I would say. I feel like it's going to be closer than that, but I expect Lamar to go out there and ball. That might not result in big, gaudy numbers, but again, the impacts Lamar has, I think, will be big. And I think the defense will be able to shut down Pittsburgh's offense for the majority of this game. So if I'm going to go final score, I'm going to say Ravens 26, Steelers 19. I think it's going to be a 7-point win for the Ravens. Nothing too flashy. I don't think the Ravens get over 30 points. They could. If they can break this thing open, and my saying is if you give the Ravens a momentum play, you're going to have a bad rest of your day if you face this Ravens team. So if the Steelers give the Ravens that Ardarius Washington fumble again, you can certainly see it happening. But this is the first step. This is the first step you have to take. If they win this game, I think he gives them momentum to ride it out throughout the rest of the postseason, which, again, Steelers are a tough team. You beat Pittsburgh, that's a good step in order to get to where you want to go. So I'm picking Ravens. I'm saying they win. I hope they do. But regardless, win or lose, we'll be back here on Locked On Ravens with the new sleek look, talking about whatever happened, hopefully a win. But after a loss, we can all vent together and end the season together. Although let's hope we're not talking about that when, the clock strikes 11 or 11:30 or whatever it is after this primetime matchup between the Ravens and Steelers. That's all I have here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in. On the way out, hit that like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along in audio form for 5 days a week of daily Ravens coverage. Of course, we'll be back here later tonight talking after the Ravens and Steelers finish up their wild card battle. So be sure to stay tuned. We'll see you right back here tonight on Locked On Ravens.